turn this. All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the book Brewers. Hi, Fajar, Donald, Pipit, Edo, Imong. Happy to see you again here. Today we are going to discuss about some books, interesting books. Edo is seen here. All right. So I think every one of you will talk about the book that you have just read. I plan to, but the book that I read is actually not finished, so I'm not going to talk about the book. But I'm going to be the moderator. So what as usual, what we can do about your book is to tell in general about the book or the background of the book or the author. Then what's the most interesting about the book and how it can actually relate with you, in context with you and your experience, or what we can learn from that book. All right, who wants to start first?
Maybe Donald first.
Is that okay, Donald?
Yeah, okay.
All right.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome
Good
to
afternoon.
So today I would like to share about a book titled Loonshot, and it is not a natural English word. So I will explain the word, the meaning of the word itself first. The definition of loon from the dictionary is a silly or foolish person. And actually, the word loonshot comes from moonshot. Moonshot, definition of moonshot is an ambitious and expensive goal, widely expected to have great significance. So, for example, the Apollo landing on the moon in 1969. That moonshot is actually a twist of it, because if moonshot is something that we aspire to, moonshot is I can say the sad story behind it. So before we see something big like a moonshot, there are usually a lot of things behind the scene that we never knew, and those are loonshots. So the definition of loonshot from the book is a neglected project, widely dismissed, its champion written off as unhinged or strange or crazy. An example given early in the book is the development of radar. Radar is very important. In World War I, there was no radar. In World War II, there was radar, but the development was late because it was considered a loan shot. So nobody took it seriously in the beginning. The idea of for radar already emerged in 1922. So two radio operators inadvertently found that they can use radio for detection. So 1922, but nobody cares in the military, the US military at that time. So the project got neglected. In 1930, they expanded the idea. So initially it was to detect ships, but then they found that they can also detect airplanes using this technology in 1930. So 8 years later, after 1922. And they asked for funding to develop the technology further, but rejected. Only in 1935 did the Navy eventually assign just one person to work on the project, 1935. That is 13 years after the initial idea. And in 1940, still in very early development, only one person assigned, right? And the World War II was beginning. 1939, Germany invaded Poland. And in 1940, a person named Bush, I think Vannevar Bush, approached the president at that time, Roosevelt, and said that the US was very much behind Germany in terms of technologies important for warfare, and asked the president to allow the formation of a group called Office of Scientific Research and Development, or SRD. and only then, and the request was granted by the president because war is imminent, and only then did they start development of radar seriously. And in 1941, they had only the early model of radar, so not so good, and as a result, the US got attacked at Pearl Harbor in December 1941. So that was one bad tragedy that happened because they neglected this moonshot for so long time. So that is one example. And there are many more examples in the book and tips on how to overcome this. But in a sense, when there is something, when we see a big breakthrough, usually behind it, there were moonshots behind it. So that is the meaning of the book and why I was interested in reading the book, because the book is about innovation, and innovation is a topic that I am very interested in. And the key takeaways that there are quite a lot from the book about more examples, more traps to avoid, and the solutions. Maybe we can discuss those later in the question and answer session. Key takeaways from the book is that for me personally, I will have to develop a personal moonshot nursery. So there are two kinds of projects that we can have from the book. The first one is moonshot projects. The other one, the opposite, is called franchise projects. Franchise projects is we do what we have always done. So for example, in the movie industry, if a movie is become successful, like Iron Man, for example, the first Iron Man is moonshot because it is unproven. But after it is successful, the sequel, Iron Man 2, become a franchise project. You just continue what has worked before. So there are two types, franchise and moonshots. And one takeaway from the book is that we need to have a personal moonshot nursery in addition to our franchise projects. So we do maybe our day job or our current work, but we need to experiment with new things. Otherwise, we will get left behind. So that is the key takeaway for me. And when we take moonshot project, we must be prepared to be ridiculed and fail because these are unproven, and many people will consider it crazy. Okay, so I think those are the key takeaways for me from the book. And maybe questions?
Okay. That was quite short, actually. Maybe you can explain a little bit if there's any samples from the book, not only about radar, but something that is more current, for example, or more relate to a lot more people, or more familiar for people.
Yeah, okay. Actually, there is quite a lot of content in the book, then, and I can easily explain, spend 2 hours. Yeah. A more recent example of moonshot. The current example, maybe not so popular, but this is the current example, is the biotech industry. The biotech industry, now there is separation between the moonshot and the franchise. The moonshots are the biotech companies, and then the franchises are the big pharma companies. A very recent example is the COVID vaccine for the coronavirus. The Pfizer vaccine is actually developed by a company called, I forget the name. It's very famous in Germany. What's the name? Pfizer and
I'm not familiar.
yeah, I forget the name of the company, but it's a small company in Germany, and this is the biotech company, and Pfizer is the big pharma, the big pharma company that, oh, BioNTech. So BioNTech is a loan-shot company. They work on unproven ideas, in this case, this vaccine. And then and Pfizer is the big pharma. So separated now. The internet is also a result of loan-shot. It comes from ARPA or DARPA, Defense Advanced Research Project Agency, inside Department of Defense. So inside the US DoD, Department of Defense, they have a loan-shot nursery called ARPA or DARPA, and one of the result is the internet. The other one is GPS. So all these come from loan-shot. And as for the solution to overcome this problem, there are three things to do. The first one is phase separation. So we need to separate the loan shop and the franchise. We need to separate this, like in the DoD. I already gave the example in the US DoD. They have an agency called DARPA for loan shop, but the rest of the military are actually franchise. They use proven weapons. And second, we need to have dynamic equilibrium. Dynamic equilibrium means there has to be good communication between the loan shop and the franchise, because otherwise one part of them will despise the other. For example, in World War II, the military often despise new weapon ideas in the British government. But fortunately, Churchill, as the prime minister, always support the loan shop projects. So new weapon ideas got developed despite opposition from the military. So in this case, Churchill becomes the person who manages the loan shop and franchise imbalance. So this is called dynamic equilibrium. And the third part is we need to have something called critical mass, meaning we need to have enough funding and enough loan shops going on, because most of them will fail. So we need to have enough of them to get success. So this is called critical mass. So first, phase separation, second, dynamic equilibrium, and third, critical mass. And then another concept interesting from the book that I learned from is something called P-type loan shots and S-type. P-type means product type, S-type means strategy type. An example is Apple. Apple has both P-type and S-type. The iPhone is a P-type loan shot, a new kind of product at the time in 2007. But the S-type is a new business model. In this case, Steve Jobs at the time used something that is unpopular, and that was to create a closed ecosystem. Because at that time, everybody thought that open ecosystem was better. Like today, Android is open. Many manufacturers can make Android phones. But Apple took the opposite way. Only Apple can manufacture iPhones with iOS. So that is a closed ecosystem that is called S-type loan shot, strategy type. And they have both P-type and S-type. And it is interesting for me to realize, so there are two kinds of loan shot. Another example, IBM PC in 1980s, they got the P-type loan shot right. So they knew that PC, personal computer, will become big. So they got it right, but they missed the S-type loan shot. They didn't expect that the operating system, the standard of the operating system is so important, will become so important. So they outsource it to a small company called Microsoft. There is no need for us to develop it. We will just ask Microsoft to provide it for us. And as it turns out, it becomes the industry standard. Many clones appear, and Microsoft become much bigger than IBM. So they miss the strategy one. Right. So those are some examples.
Thanks a lot, Donald. That was interesting, and it gives some context for us here too, right? Okay, any questions from the others? Fajar, Edo, Pipit?
Maybe not.
Can you guys hear me? Sorry, my audio is.
Yes,
Yes. Okay.
yeah, clearly.
Today is Hari Bike, right? And then because of that, so many roads are being closed because of hajatan. I'm totally stuck right now. So I wish I could join actively. But I really like Moonshot. I think it's one of the best books I've read. It's
Mm.
not for the technical side, but more of the stories. It's stories about heartbreak. So it's one story after the others, talking about people who were frustrated because other people could not see that they had good ideas. And some of the stories end in happy ending, a lot of them, but some others did not end with a happy ending. So I think every single story that was brought up in the book One Shot deserved a movie of itself. I think a lot of the stories are very inspiring. So if you can spare hour reading maybe only the story parts, I think the first 4 chapters, it's good enough to take away a lot of lessons from this book. So I just want to share about that one.
All right. So thanks, Pipit. You also read the book, I guess. Yeah.
Okay. Can
Okay,
I
fine.
add?
Yes, Donald knew the book from me.
All right. Fajar, you have any questions or comments, please?
Maybe I will just add something.
Yeah.
The idea about the book is about the idea that was considered as useless, but it turned out to be very useful, right? And it is actually very true for scientific discoveries. For example, many things in science at first it was considered as useless. For example, maybe uh, uh, many of us at least think that math in school is not particularly useful in daily life, yeah. Yeah, to be honest. But to be honest, it is very useful when there is certain technology that need that that new math. For example, that the cryptography or the security of the bank, it use number theory, although number theory was considered as something useless in math at first. Other than that, yeah, many stuff in math that was considered as useless, abstract, and there is no point in doing that. It turned out to be very useful to apply that. So I think this is very true that loop side ideas is not always be useless. It's just that we have no idea how useful it is until we make full of it.
Awesome. That's a good insight for someone like me who hates math. Thank you,
Yeah.
Fajar. Edo, anything?
So, what does the book say about those ideas that fail? So, do they only talk about those ideas that successful? Because we know that many crazy ideas would turn out more failure than more successful.
Yeah, thank you. There are two terms in the book related to that I would like to introduce. The first term is three deaths, and the second term is false fail. So the first term means that oftentimes ideas that eventually will prove to be world-changing ideas experience at least three deaths. So an example is statin drugs. Now is very important for heart disease because it can lower cholesterol levels using statin. But the idea for statin actually had like 7-year cycle of being despised and being favored. But so despised, and then 7 years later favored, and then despised again, and then favored again and despised again, for like I think 30 years before it eventually got approval. So that is three deaths. First, so there can be cycles of being favored, despised, and the second term that I think is very important is false fail, meaning that we need to distinguish whether the fail, when it got despised and expressed failure, is it a false fail or real failure? So that will determine whether the idea is indeed a bad idea or just a long shot in waiting to become a breakthrough. So we need to differentiate this. A good example that I find from the book is for Facebook. Facebook is founded in 2004 and it showed investors. And one of the investors is the founder of PayPal, Peter Thiel. And there was already another social network, the first social network was popular in Indonesia, called Friendster. And Friendster at that time was being left by the user. So users migrate to the next big thing, MySpace, and users left behind the Friendster. So is the idea of social network or Friendster-like network is bad, or is it a false fail? So they dig deeper into that data and eventually found that Friendster users actually kept trying the real reason why Friendster was being left by the users is because it crashed too often, so unstable. And we tried to access it and it crashed. And the early investors in Facebook found out that actually the users keep trying to access Friendster despite being crashed. So they realized from the data how many times that the user tried to access the network. It means that the idea itself is sound, but only the infrastructure problem, the infrastructure was the problem. So they considered it's false fail. The business model itself is good, only the infrastructure was the problem. So they decided to invest in Facebook. So that is an example. We need to be able to determine, is it a false fail or a real fail? What is the reason behind the failure? If we can dig deeper into that and find the real reason, we can decide whether to move on with the idea or not. I don't know whether that answers your question.
Nice.
Oh,
Thank you,
nice.
Donald. Yeah. Anything else, Edo?
Okay, for me.
Okay. I have a question for you, Donald. What you explained reminded me of something that happened to an innovation, or it was supposed to be an innovation on the flavor. Indomie, I think it was maybe 10, 20 years ago, started to have this different flavors using Indonesian flavor like Indomie rasa rendang, mie celor, all these things, because they think this is good for people who don't have enough money. They want to eat rendang, but they can, something like that. But the project failed in the beginning for quite a long time. I heard about this because I gave training to this Indo food group one time, and they told me the story before. And they had these huge piles of, products, and nobody wanted it at that time. And it's even cost their CEO's job, like she was being because this product failed. But then again, perhaps it was because not in the right timing at the time. But look at now, not only Indomie, but also many other noodle products, they use all kind of flavors, right? So, and that's one sample. Another sample, what I remember was air berperisa and then berwarna, like aqua, but I think it was started in Canada at that time. Just like clear water, but with some taste in it, with fruits or something like that. I think it was a failure. But then look at now, all kind of aqua berperisa or water with some flavor in it. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think those are good examples. Thank you. Just yeah, so it's nice to get examples from Indonesia because the book itself is usually use examples from Europe or the US. Thank you.
I got the answer here. Is it the same like that? This is a 3 death experience, or it's totally different ball game?
Yeah. To answer whether that is 3 death experience, we need to dig deeper into the cycle. So maybe from what year to what year it was despised and then favored and then despised. So I'm not sure whether there are many cycles like that or just one cycle. If it is one cycle, it is not 3 deaths. It's
Okay.
one death.
Mm.
But if it is there are some cycles, then it is
Yeah.
3 deaths or more.
I think there is a quote about this. There is a quote: "All truth pass through 3 stages. All truth pass through stages. First, it is ridiculed. Second, it is violently opposed. Third, it is accepted as being self-evident." So I think
Ridicule first,
and then
and
oppose, and
oppose.
then it become self-evident.
Self-evident.
I think it's also true for scientific innovation, where at first disease was considered as some kind of gas, and germ theory was ridiculed so badly, and it was ignored for quite a long time until the germ theory become the proven theory.
Nice. All right. Thank you, Fajar. Don't know, Edo Pipit, you want to have any?
Yes, sorry.
Yeah.
So first thing, it's an idea is considered radical, and then slowly it becomes like integrated or acculturation or something. After that, people take it for granted. For example, the idea of that women should vote in a democratic process, right? So when it first came out, it was considered a radical idea that even a lot of women were arrested for protesting about why they did not have a right to vote. And then over 100, of course, of almost maybe 50 years, the value become acculturated. And after that, people take it for granted. Like people will not ask question, should women vote? And then the answer will be, what are you talking about? Of course, right? Because we take it for granted. Because now the value has been adapted. But it makes us sometimes forget that it took a long time for that value to be adopted by the majority of the society. So I think that's the evolution of an idea from radical until being taken for granted.
Thank you, Pipit. Interesting. All right. Anything else for this first book review?
Yeah, maybe I can give one more example.
Yeah.
And please, Edo, correct me if I'm wrong, because Edo has background in physics. So maybe a current Lune-Schott is fusion reactor for fusion energy. And it has experienced many deaths. So with first idea, they got excited, and then all the excitement just gone because of something. And then a new wave came, and then gone again. And now they try again for I don't know how many times fusion. So these are, for in my opinion, seems like Lune-Schotts on the way to a moonshot. If it eventually succeeds, then it will become a moonshot. So Lune-Schott, 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 and eventually reach a moonshot. Is that right, Edo?
Yeah, regarding some technology, for example, like the fusion, it's a big idea first, but because it's a combination of many complex technology and science requirement needed on it, then it just become not feasible during that time. So the idea is that, but meanwhile in the background, all the other technology and science keep developing, while this idea of fusion development is that all other technology like semiconductor, computing, and everything developing with its own pace. And then once this technology, this other technology and science, they start to have a sufficient, can give sufficient platform for this fusion technology, then this idea come back again. And there is the cycle until we fully have all the supporting science and technology ready and sufficient for this fusion, then it's could start become to realize and become a feasible alternative from what we have currently. That is what happened mostly in science and innovation.
That's cool. I guess everyone here but me are familiar with all these things, yeah. So it's a good thing for me then. Thank you, Donald. Is that okay now? Oh,
Yes,
all
thank
right.
you.
Thanks, Donald. I'm gonna give you a big round of applause. Okay, we do have, for the sake of the recording, I will have to say that today we have four books to be reviewed, and the other book other than Donald's Loonshots is Jeremy Scott's autobiography, and another one is Digital Minimalism, and the last one is Geek Manifesto, Why Science Matters. So is it going to be Fajar first or Pipit?
Does it have to be in order? I would like to go last.
I can't hear you clearly. Pipit,
Maybe it's still
what
on
did you
the
say?
way.
I'm still on the way. I would like to go
Oh, you're still
last.
on the way. All right. Okay. Fajar, what about you?
Okay.
Yeah. Your book is Digital Minimalism by Carl Newport. I know a little bit about this book because I use his example in the book that I wrote about the art of Hichus, which is how to manage your time and energy. So it'll be interesting to get some insight from you, Fajar, about this book.
All right.
Please, screen is
Okay.
yours.
Okay, so thank you very much, Imo. So today I would like to share with you about a book that I have read for the past month. It is a book by Carl Newport with the title Digital Minimalism, Choosing a Focused Life in a Noisy World. So I would like to ask you a question. How many hours average Indonesian spend their time on the internet? How many hours Indonesians spend their time in the internet on average?
10?
Any guess? 10?
8 hours?
10? And then anyone else?
Two.
2? 2 is impossible.
8?
8? Okay. The answer is 8.5 hours. And actually, if you think about that, 8.5 hours is such a long time. And if we cut the sleeping time, we only have like 16 hours or 17 hours, and we spend half of that on the internet. Can you imagine that? So that's huge. And although on the other hand, internet is something that is very beneficial for our life. For example, there is a saying that ekonomi digital diprediksi menciptakan 2,5 juta lapangan kerja baru, so that's very useful, such as Shopee, Tokopedia, Gojek, etc., etc. But at the same time, the usage of the internet can be debilitating, right? It can be very restricting. It can urge us to watch or use stuff unnecessarily. And this book discuss about how we lose our autonomy or lose our control, and it makes us using internet more than we need, often at the expense of something that is more valuable. And usually it's not that we are lazy or just addicted or anything like that. It's just that those technology companies has invested so much money to make this true. For example, like TikTok with the and suddenly Instagram, Facebook follow the video, right? And even Shopee also follow the video thing, so that uh, they spend more time on the application itself, and also the likes is also very addictive in some way. uh, I don't say that technology is all bad, but at the same time, if we don't control that, it can be very harmful. So that's why we need to do something actively to stop being like that dictated on how we spend our time on the internet. So there is an idea of philosophy that is called the digital minimalism. It's basically only focus your online time on some carefully selected and very optimized activities that helps us, or something that support our value, and we just forget anything else. So there are three principles. First, too much thing is costly. It distract our mind, and we optimize our usage of the internet. And lastly, we use the internet intentionally instead of just being uh, dragged by our habit. And maybe, oh yeah, and this there is a fasting period if you are interested. It is basically you are trying to fast from technology for about 30 days, and you try to do some other activities other than using the internet, maybe like reading books or sport or whatever. And at the end of the 30 days, you reintroduce again the technology that you see it as necessary, and basically start from the blank again. Um, Actually, that's the most important part. The rest of the book is like just like some argument that is not super important, but basically that's the idea. And I try to do this digital decluttering process. It works for about 2 weeks. And after the next 2 weeks, I kind of forget about that. Forget about the commitment that I have made. Maybe because of the job, and also the the old habit dies hard, and but at least from what I observe, how much I spend on the gadget is reduced like almost 50% or even 60% when I try to do the digital minimalism. And I spend mostly on the gadget for something that is necessary. For example, like WhatsApp is necessary, but Instagram, TikTok, or online shopping, other than necessity, it's not very useful. And to be honest, I find that when I try this digital minimalism, it is one of the most productive moment that I have compared to the rest. Uh, and my best suggestion is that uh, the best way to do it is not to use willpower, because willpower is kind of we it's temporary, it's temporary. We are motivated at first, but we forget about that later. So I urge you to use some app blocker, and maybe you can block your gadget for like 10 hours and you can only spend time at the evening. So that's something that's the most effective way for me. All right, and what I like is the idea is not new actually, but it is very relevant for us. One thing that I don't like is that, well, only the first 3 chapters are the most relevant. The other is like, oh, it's interesting, but not the most important. And also the author is not someone that use internet so much, so that uh, he cannot relate to me at least. Okay, I think that's all. Any question or discussion?
All right, that's interesting. Yeah, it's hard, it's challenging to do that, right? It just reminded me of I went on an extreme by taking a meditation retreat for a week without, so uh, I had to stay away from everything except just meditating and eating. So no reading, no gadget, no nothing for a week. But that makes me becomes mellow. However, it was actually addictive because I went there again. I went again to the same thing, but for 4 days, and that was before the pandemic. It was great, but I don't know why now I come back with with all these gadgets and even reduce my reading time. That's the problem. I will ask Fajar later on, but before that, any other comments or questions for Fajar?
Yes, I would like to ask question.
Yeah.
I remember, Fajar, that a few months ago you shared a book short about a book titled Dopamine Mission. Dopamine Mission.
What's that?
And
Dopamination?
yeah, Dopamine Mission.
Okay.
And I suspect that social media like TikTok, for example, they try to give us the dopamine to keep us addicted to it. So maybe can you relate the ideas in the book with the ideas in the Dopamine Mission, how this related to each other?
Okay, so I think oh yeah, a few months ago I talked about the dopamine nation. Yeah, so basically we are addicted to dopamine, especially now the technology as a new kind of quote unquote drug.
Yeah.
If you use it unwisely. And I think that there are some new type of addictions that is recognized by psychologists. For example, like internet addiction, gaming addictions, porn addictions, etc., etc. Something that is related to internet, and the worst part is that smartphone is something that cannot be separated from our life. Maybe if it's drug or gambling, you can just go away or not using that stuff anymore. But gadget is everywhere. So I think that if we don't do something actively, we will be manipulated by those technology giants, and we spend so much time on those gadgets instead of living our life.
Yeah. Interesting. All right. Does that answer, Donald?
If I may follow up question, is there any, because I haven't read those two books, is there any ideas from the Dopamine Nation book that is applicable to the situation described in digital minimalism? For example, how can I overcome social media addiction? Maybe an idea from Dopamine Nation that can be applied to it.
Okay, I think one applicable suggestion from the Dopamine Nation is to do fasting. Exactly the same with the digital minimalism. Why it's important? It is important so that the nerve that is related to that, let's say, using gadget become weaker and weaker, and we will be less urged by those habits. I mean, at first it will be very difficult, but there is a saying that in nerve, if you don't use it, then the nerve will die eventually. So I think that it is important for us to restrain ourselves.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
It's a tough one.
Yeah, I think it says that like it takes like 30 days or 60 days so that the nerve can be readjusted. At first, it will be super difficult, like the first week
Yeah.
or the second week, but it will be easier.
Yes. And this guy, Carl Newport, I think he went to a year sabbatical by not taking care of all these digital things, yeah. Like going to the woods and do nothing about digital. Was it being mentioned in the book?
No, he didn't.
Okay.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
All right. Edo, you have any questions or comments? Edo? Yeah.
How about those people whose life being very tightly connected with this technology? How we supposed to do fasting if like our livelihood depending on them, like we are working in the sector where it's require us to be constantly with it. Is it still considered addiction or kind of that?
Okay, so really good question. It's also very related to me because we use gadget all the time for at least for job, right? How to do it? Well, this book suggests you to remove the optional technology. Optional technology is something that is not necessary for our life. And for example, at least for me, I have uninstalled Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. Sometimes I also uninstall Shopee because sometimes I browse Shopee and watch the video. I don't know why. And those are optionals. And if I need that, I can just simply install that and uninstall that again. So I know that WhatsApp and Telegram is very useful, but I don't think WhatsApp is addictive, right? So the point is just remove the optional one and use the most important one. Optimize our usage of technology.
Okay. Thanks, Fajar. I think for me, I needed like the one I told you. I was busy with work, but I think I needed to get away from everything. So I said to my boss, I said, I need this. I need to recharge my battery. So for a week, I'm gonna go off the grid. Don't call me, don't anything. And all these handphones was actually with the committee, yeah, of this place, the meditation. Only if there's like a death or something like that, then we will be contacted through them. So that's how
I
I
have a
did.
question for Fajar.
Yes.
Yeah. Go ahead, Pipit.
Hi, Fajar. Does the book imply that technology is the reason why we procrastinate? And do you believe in that? Or is the technology is just the symptom? Like, for example, if the person is a procrastinator, whether or not there's technology around him or her, they will always find a way to procrastinate, right? If not browsing on Instagram, maybe just melamun, for example. So does the book imply that technology is the reason why we procrastinate or not? And do you agree?
The book don't mention about procrastination. It is mostly about our usage of the technology overall, and basically it doesn't touch about the procrastinations. And the question is, what does the relationship between procrastination and also usage of technology? I think that it can make procrastinator or symptom much worse because internet can provide endless amount of entertainment. Like you
Mhm.
can spend hours at least binging for Netflix, YouTube, or anything, right? Uh, so basically, it is like giving a highway for doing procrastination. Uh, it doesn't necessarily mean that uh, yeah, I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean that if you have a technology, you will procrastinate, but it will make it much worse, at least for me. So that's why I just block the whole phone, except the important application for 10 hours.
Mm.
Yeah.
All right, interesting. Pipit, is that okay now? Or do you have any other question?
I agree. So it's like the highway of procrastinator, right?
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
jalan tolnya.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, Edo, ada lagi?
Yeah. I imagine if I start to live my technology, I still seek another mean of entertainment. If I stop watching YouTube, for example, yeah, I will just go reading novel. I mean, isn't that still a comparable ways of using your time or wasting your time watching YouTube and or reading novel or some other ways like just strolling around? Or is there something that divine that uh, getting some entertainment from technology-based thing is worse than getting entertainment from other sorts, uh, like for example, reading a physical novel. That's still kind of entertainment, right? Compared to watching Netflix, for example.
Okay. I think that's a really good point. I don't want to discriminate that entertainment from technology is bad. uh, I think the book here mentioned about this. Let's do 30 days fasting first, and after the 30 days, you can reintroduce those technology again. And if you feel that you still need the let's like watching YouTube at certain amount of time, then I think it's good. Yeah, and we still can. Oh yeah, I think this book focus on the optima
Optimization.
optimization. Yeah, optimizations. So basically it maximize our happiness on using technology. So I think it's good. It's okay for using it for YouTube, let's say, but not so much. Only do it when we gain the most benefit for that, not scrolling endlessly for the Instagram. Yeah, I keep doing that, to be honest.
So what are the key actually? The key, I mean, to do that? You mentioned here three, clutter is costly, optimized, and in intentionality.
Yes. So
How
yeah,
to build that,
so
especially
maybe what
intentionality.
I imagine is that, let's say that I don't love watching YouTube, and I agree that there are so many videos that is very informative and also very engaging, and that is worthwhile for us to watch that. Um, what I mean is that we need to engage that intentionally. So maybe we can try to, put it on the watch letter, and we can spend like maybe at most 2 hours watching those videos. And but at the same time, we don't want us to scroll endlessly on YouTube, so we lose control of our time and life. So first is intentionality, and try to optimize our use of internet. That's the point.
Okay. Thank you, Fajar. Edo?
Yeah, I think I can get it. Yeah, I also feel that the more easier you can acquire some kind of entertainment, it becomes less gratifying. So you just
Yeah.
more amount of it.
Mm.
While other kind, like for example, I think that it is harder to read some novel compared to watching some short video on YouTube. You
Mhm.
need
Yeah.
to sit down, make yourself relax, and all it takes time. And yeah,
Oh,
I
yeah.
can get the point.
I want to add something. There is a mention about diminishing return. Do you guys know diminishing return? So let's say that you spend like 10 hours on Instagram. It doesn't mean that you will gain 10 times of joy. Usually only the first hour is the most engaged, the most entertaining. So
Yeah.
that's why if we want to seek entertainment, we need to limit that use of technology, and we can only get the best part of that. Mm.
Nice, interesting. I'm gonna take that. That's my takeaway. Thank you, Fajar. All right, that was 2 sessions, really good. I enjoyed very much, and I hope you too. Now, let's go to Pipit first, yeah, Edo, yeah? Yeah, Pipit. So you're going to
Hello.
talk about
If I
something.
use my can I be heard?
Yes.
Yes,
Kedengaran
yeah,
nggak Kak Imam?
masih.
Kedengaran,
Yeah.
although it's a bit
Okay.
putus-putus a bit.
Whew, I'm really frustrated right now. So I hope my mood is not getting on the way. So the
No.
book I read this time is actually was an audio book. I listened to this audio book when I was on the plane, and it was 4 hours listening to this audiobook, around 300 pages, if I'm not mistaken. A lot of the books have photos. That's why, and the narrator was really slow because it was intended for people who are not English native speakers, basically. So the book was kind of slow. But I really enjoy it is the autobiography of Jeremy Scott. And the reason why I was interested to listen to this audiobook, among other options, is because Jeremy Scott is one of the fashion icons that turned recycling into something trendy and high fashion. So I found that as very admirable in that kind of way. As we know that, high fashion like Chanel, Gucci, things like that, they usually are a little bit pretentious, right? But Jeremy Scott introduced high fashion made out of recycled materials. Even some of the clothes he designed were actually made from trash. Okay. And then I think that was a little bit radical. And then he managed to prove that um, he can raise a good brand. So if you know the brand Moschino, for example, and then Chip and Chick also was by him. And the lessons, what are the questions, Mbak Imam? Sorry.
No
Is there
questions?
questions or not?
No.
No questions. Oh, so the lesson I got from the book is the first one. He was always a different kid. As you know, when you were a gay person, uh, usually you look different, right? So he got bullied because he basically looked like a girl all throughout his life. And he was from a small town in Missouri in Kansas City, close to Kansas City. So if you can imagine, the surrounding is very rural. So he got bullied a lot, but it never changed his personality, basically. So I think the first lesson is, if you already know your identity, or uh, you have some conviction, I think just keep believing yourself, no matter what your environment or your surrounding think of you. And he had to endure that. And one thing is he cut his own hair since he was 5 years old. I don't know what kind of parents did that. So his parents allowed him to cut his own hair since he was 5 years old. And you know what? That's the reason why he got a job in fashion industry, because of his hairstyle. So he moved. Oh, right. Okay. The second lesson that I got from it is we have to have a long plan to achieve our goal. So Jeremy Scott knew that he had always wanted to be a designer. So he took 2 classes, French class and Japanese class. So he speaks Japanese and French because he thought, like, if I wanted to be a fashion designer, I have to know the language of the fashion centers of the world. So even when he was still in high school, learning French and Japanese, he did all of that. And it turned out to be very useful few years after that. So after finishing high school, he moved to France, and then he became homeless in France, basically. So he slept at the train stations almost 1 year. Every night, slept at the train stations, and also tried offered people to cut their hair, basically. So he cut the hair of other homeless people. So they give them sometimes food in exchange, or even just one, I don't know what was I forgot the name of the currency before euro at that time, right? So that's how he got by for 1 year. And the reason why he got discovered was because of his hairstyle. So when he hang out in front of a nightclub in Paris, suddenly the marketing director of, if not Louis Vuitton, I forgot the brand, but say Louis Vuitton, yeah? The marketing director of Louis Vuitton was about to enter the club, and then he saw him with a really unique hairstyle. And then this marketing director asked him, "Where did you cut your hair?" "I actually cut it myself." And I don't know, it's really too bad they did not show the photo of the haircut, because it's hard for me to imagine that a certain haircut can get you a good job, basically. But that's what happened. Okay, and then after that, marketing director of LV spot him, then he actually offered him a job in the marketing under his department. And then after that, he worked his way to the top, to this in this fashion brand. Okay, I think Ralph Lauren or something, I forgot. It was very slow, and then I was in and out of sleep. So he worked his way step by step until he was big enough, and then he made his own brand, basically. And when he finally made his own brand, he decided to change the stigma of the high fashion. So he actually used trash. He imported trash from Brazil, basically, like cardboards and all of these things, and turned them into shoes, bags, and things like that. And then a lot of people thought he was crazy, because who would like to buy trash? And you try to market it as high fashion. And then what he said was just watch, just watch, like that. And then for some reason, he was able to turn this fashion made out of trash into something that is popular. So he got a lot of brand deals from Nike, from other brands as well who like to collaborate. So that's the lessons I got from it are those 3, that if you already know who you are, even though your surrounding is not supportive, you should just believe in yourself. And then second, takes a lot of hard work, basically. Someone who was homeless for a year can be a millionaire like right now. And sometimes it happens out of coincidence, right? because he got spotted by this marketing director. So, but a coincidence will just remain a coincidence if we do not act on it, basically. He can just stay as a marketing team, for example. But he worked hard and showed people that he had a lot of talents, very productive and things like that, a lot of good ideas. So he was able to work from the marketing team to the top of the company. So I think that also is supported by a very meritocratic company, obviously. Because if you are good enough, then you can advance. If the company has a lot of politics, I don't think that's possible, right? So that one, and then the last one is, even though people think you have a crazy idea, like turning trash into high fashion, he said there are two things that possible. First, if no one thought about it before, it's either one, the idea is really, really bad, or the idea is really, really good. If no one thought about it before, it's either the idea is really, really bad or the idea is really, really good. So you just need to try and find out which one it is. So just act on your crazy ideas. So I think that's what I can share from the book, Jeremy Scott.
Okay, thank you, Pipit. Interesting. Yeah. And now try to imagine the hairstyle. Maybe we can find it somewhere on the internet. Anyway, so before I ask the question myself, I will ask each one of you here to give comments and questions.
Okay, I want to
Yeah.
share my screen for that guy's Jeremy Scott's
Yeah.
line. No, not this one. Wait. Okay.
I still see the digital minimalism.
I know. So this is from his Instagram. So as you can see that it is very colorful, let's say. And this is the unique design.
Yeah, he put the products, just like the recycling.
Yeah,
Usually the shopping bag made out of Molto, Attack,
yeah.
something like that, right?
And also this
He
is
turned that into
I think this is the trash fashion. At least I have one question. Is it I don't know whether I just clueless about high fashion, but I don't think that is beautiful. Or maybe
Well,
other
Fajar, they
people
call
have
it
different
haute
taste, or I don't
couture.
know.
They
Yeah.
call it haute couture. Haute couture. Haute couture. So a lot of the high fashion actually are not wearable. If you Google John Galliano, for example, the used to be the head of Dior, a lot of his clothes, like people will not wear them on the street. Like seriously, it's only for show. But for some reasons, they like that kind of. I think they call it wearable art. So it's much like an object of art with very less intrinsic value. But it's considered high fashion for some reasons. Yeah. Haute couture. So if you Google John Galliano, a lot of his clothes even cannot be worn.
Maybe it's just high class people that understand. I am just a regular.
No, I think they
Indonesian.
just watch it for entertainment. No one actually wear it. Maybe the one who wear it, like just Lady Gaga, like Katy Perry, all of these celebrities, and people just take photos of them.
I think it's just for the cost, yeah. I mean, other than the uniqueness there, and but something that you don't see it every day. But in his case, also because he brings some message, right? Valuable message for the mass that can relate to us with the recycled thing.
Yeah,
Thanks, Fajar. Yes, Donald?
Yeah. So the horticulture, I don't know if I pronounce it right. Is it similar to like Picasso paintings? Because if I see Picasso painting, I see, but they say it's very good and very expensive. So is it similar to that?
Yes, I think there was a really good quote from the book related to object d'art, they call it, right? It's actually French. I'm not sure how to read it. Object d'art. They said the design is so sophisticated that it overwhelms the function. The design is so sophisticated that it overwhelms the function, even for painting. So I think in painting is called impressionism, impression. So they don't draw the actual object, they just draw the impression of the object. And as time goes by, the impression becomes too far from the actual object that is actually irrecognizable. Like someone actually Picasso painted an elephant, but it doesn't look anything like elephant. Like people will not find out if you didn't tell them this is an elephant. Like what from which perspective, you know? So I think it's that quote resonates with Picasso or even I don't know. Is there any other that is impressionism, but also high haute couture? The design overwhelms the function.
And I think arts form is kind of, they have their own the tanda kutip ya, quote unquote dogma, and the dogma is no boundaries.
Yeah.
Okay,
I
so
would
they
like-
can express anything. Yes, Donald?
Yeah, I would like to give a comment related to the book. So from the story that Pipit shared, alas, I think a good term is serendipity. Serendipity is a good fortune that comes unplanned.
Yeah.
But I think one big factor to that is he dared to be different. Because if he just has the same haircut as everyone else, then nobody will took notice, right? But he had different, and he dared to be different, and also with the dress fashion, he dared to be different. And my question to Bibit is, what do you think is the thing that make him first think different, and second dare to be different without getting ridiculed and the likes?
That's actually very interesting because I asked about the same thing with the Donald questions, because not much was talked about or discussed about his upbringing. For example, there has to be something special about his upbringing that made him dare to be himself, even though the surrounding pressurized him to conform, right? But he did not conform. And the thing about serendipity actually happens a lot in business, but it's usually is used as a kickstart. But after the serendipity happens, the end result will be in our hand. So if you have read the book Ride of a Lifetime, the Robert Iger, the CEO of Disney, Walt Disney for 15 years, right? He got the job in the television despite having poor grades and not from a famous university. Actually, because his uncle was hospitalized in the same room with the director of NBC. It's like a very coincidence. And then his uncle suddenly, we have a job for my cousin, for my nephew. He's looking for a job, blah, blah, blah. And then for some reason, because the uncle was a impressionable person, so this NBC director give the nephew a job. And then that is the serendipity. And after that, he worked his way to the top. And that is his own hard work. So same thing with Jeremy Scott. I think the serendipity was, for some reason, he was there in front of that club and this marketing director passed by. That is the serendipity. But what happened after that was on his own hand, that he managed to go to the top. So the thing about what made him there, I actually asked about the same thing. But again, I could not find or pinpoint the actual way to do it because he did not really talk about his parents, did not even talk about why, he was there to be different. We just thought it was naturally like that. So yeah, too bad I did not also have the answer to Donald's questions.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Pipit. Edo.
I have sometimes feel that there is some contradiction in his personnel. So he he seems to try to raise awareness for a trash issue by making his high fashion with kind of trash or something that try to raise awareness on environmental issue. But on the other hand, he is also the director for Moschino, which is we know is also a brand participating in a fast fashion industry. There is also a lot of contributor for trash. And I do not know how the sustainability, but I can I can see that the sustainability for the product is not so good for environmental. So I see some contradiction here. What do you think?
That is cool
Yes,
question.
yeah, actually I caught the same hypocrisy because Moschino and Chic also is considered fast fashion. Fast fashion. They encourage people to buy every change of season. And there are 4 seasons up there in the north, right? So every season they encourage people to buy new clothes, or new shoes, new bags. And that is fast fashion, and that has a really high carbon print as well. But and in my opinion though, you cannot really it's hard to be an idealist that you have to commit 100%. In my opinion, at least do what you can. So in this case, I think, like say 35%, I'm not sure, he did not mention any number, but I'll just throw it out there. Like maybe 35% of the materials they used to produce this clothing are from recycled materials, for example. In my opinion, that is still good enough compared to other brands that do not really even care about or is even try to avoid that idea because they see trash as disgusting, for example. So I try to see it on the good light instead of the what could have been, like could have been better, yes, but even with what he's doing, it's good enough. So that's usually my stance for a lot of things. Like right now on my platform Lingkunganku, I got asked about anti-sachet, and a lot of people in the environment community ask me to ban sachetan tuh loh, packaging, but I say I don't ban it. I don't want to ban. I don't want to promote banning sachet because realistically, a lot of people still need it. Our daya beli in masyarakat, they cannot buy shampoo that is 20,000 rupiah with the full size. They only can buy 1,000 when it's time to wash their hair because their income is daily and weekly. So I try to go in the middle way, like maybe as the government, we need to just upsize the sachet. So instead of 10 milliliter, maybe minimum 20 milliliter. That's already cutting 50% of the trash from sachet. Right? So I try to find the middle way, not totally go to one side. Just like Jeremy Scott, I think, yeah, try to make profit promoting fashion, but at least he also bring up awareness about recyclable materials.
Okay, excellent. I think that's a wrap up for for your session, Pipit. Yeah. Okay. Now the last but not least, Edo, with the book. Let me have a look again with the book called Geek Manifesto: Why Science Matters. This will be interesting. Yes, the screen is yours, Edo.
Okay, thank you. Okay. So the title of the book is The Geek Manifesto, about why science matters. So it is written by Mark Henderson at the time of this book published, which is in 2012, but a while ago. He is science director for the Times of London, and he read this book with the premise, which is quoted from what said by Carl Sagan, scientist celebrities. So he said this: we have arranged a global civilization in which most crucial elements like transportation, communication, all other industries, agriculture, medicine, education, entertainment, environment, even democratics probably depend on science and technology. But we also arrange these things so almost nobody understands science and technology. This is a prescription for disaster. So why his things like this is first because most of our leaders, our politician, lawmaker, our regulator, thinks that science is one of two things. It's either a collection of knowledge which can be learned or taught, like gravity, electricity, evolution, and all, or it is the fruit, which is the product of those knowledge, like computer, aeroplane, satellite, vaccine, and all. These two things is not wrong either, but science is more than that. Science is more than the body of knowledge. Science is way of thinking. In and now because we are underrepresentative in our legislation from uh, people from that have a background in science and technology, like a scientist or engineer or medical doctor or all, we have underrepresented in our parliament currently. This book, because it's written by a British person, so it's more, it put more spotlight on the British politics, uh, and sometimes take example from the American politics, but it should apply to worldwide as well. So what is the profound difference between that we see between from politician and scientist is first, in science, people allowed to change their mind and even encourage it. In science, it is considered as a professional honesty if you change your mind in the light of new evidence. But in politics, this could be considered as a blunder if you change your mind. If you change your opinion, then you can be considered as a person that opinion can be trusted, or a person that is a flip flopper. So sometimes politician, once he said a thing, he cannot change into the reverse gear. So he cannot make a U-turn because he's afraid to do this kind of blunder. And that is not a good thing actually, because we can learn many things to apply science in many walk of life, and we choose to ignore this. So actually, scientific approach to problem solving is applicable to very wide range of political cases. And if we ignore this advantage, it's become disadvantage one. That is why it is precisely important for how a politician think than what they think. And then why we also get less representation in our parliament from scientifically background people is first because one thing is the scientists think that politics is something that happened to them, not something that they can influence. They think that, oh, their work is in the lab, in the in the lab, in the academic setting, and let those politicians do the thing for them. But actually, it is possible for those scientists who this book's called as jigs. It's not it's not necessary for a GIGS to be people that work in science. It could be also every people that is thinks highly of science, that is pro with scientific methods and all. So actually, all those jigs can do some campaigning and lobbying to make sure that all this lawmaking process is pro science, and do not let anything that is anti science that can make into our law, like kind of things that result in, because there is many lobbying group company that is probably anti science, but there is not much hindrance for them, like the anti-vaccine people and those pseudo-scientific people. There are many things that is pushing our government now. If we do not make as greater approach to push our government to lobby them to be to adhere to our what the scientists found, then this could be a disaster for us. Then this book uh, separated into several chapters, and which chapter describe precisely what science would help in a certain aspect of our life that is other than science, like education, media, economy, uh, and also justice system. For example, in media, there is also there is a different mindset between those of journalists and scientific who does not apply well. Many journalists think that it is their duty to tell the both side of the story, because they have some kind of norm with this due impartiality, which they need to have a balanced reporting between both sides. While this works pretty well for covering many other aspects, but it's not always the case for science, because in science, opposing view usually does not always have opposing view does not always have the same merit. So this norm of balance has no parallel things in science. Like there between the pro-vaccine and anti-vaccine, of course, there is they don't share the same merit, because one side have already have many evidence, many proof, and the other side is more like a judgment and all that less scientifically derived and all. Also, regarding the education, also there is one key takeaway that is actually that's a good thing I get from the book, which is we can actually apply regulation in education such as what we apply in medical. So in medical, we expect that our drugs and also our new medical procedure to have been tested by a rigorous method, which is they call randomized critical trial. So before it is applied in general use, they will need to pass this test, or else all those idea cannot be proceed for general use. And we lack this kind of rigorous test in our education system. So like if there is a new kind of teaching method, usually they applied this one without much of consideration for doing testing. Many critics say that it is unethical to do experiments in education, but actually it is unethical to not do experiment on education, because there is many benefit, and there could be many things wrong if we apply a method that is unproven. I think that is about this book. Let's continue to question.
Okay, well, that's very interesting. And it seems like a very serious book, even though it says, well, it's already says the Geek Manifesto. We have a question from Fajar in written. What do you think about education inequality? Mostly only the privileged ones that have access to better school or good university by getting tutor, bimbel, pay the expensive university tuition. So while those who are poor are stuck with their low-paying job, and it's hard for them to get better education access. What do you think about this?
Since this kind of problem is usually what is tackled by our lawmaker there, they make a law to make sure that education could be gotten by every people regarding of their socioeconomic background.
Mm.
So this book also mentioned that there is three things. It is found by science. There is three things that affect the future that can predict very good what the future of a child. First is their IQ. Second is their socio-economic background, and three is their self-control ability that can be observed during early childhood. So science says that these three things is the one that can have that already passed some experiment for very long years and shows and there is a conclusion, the good conclusion that these three can be a good prediction. So if our civil servant and our politician, our leader could consider any finding our scientists, that do from this experiment, it could help also. And also we have to make sure that any policies that we made on the aspect of education to be further tested, and politicians or leaders should not be afraid to change their mind when they see there is something divide from what they plan on the policy on education. For example, this book also mentioned an example in US. So it's early 2000. There is from George Bush. There is a policy about no kids left behind. There are no kids left behind. So this kind of policies to make sure that all kids will have a balanced education regarding of their neighborhood. So how good or bad neighborhood, socioeconomic and all. So many representatives at the time, many politicians strongly agreed to these policies. That is first done in the Bush presidency. But then after a few years, they see that this policy of no kids left behind have its own disadvantage. So some politicians see that this policy is not actually give a good result. It even has many disadvantage. And then one politician, I forgot the name, but it's also renowned. Maybe it's a candidate for vice president. I think that is against Bush after in the next election. He changed his mind about this policy of no kids left behind because he found that the evidence showed that there is many disadvantages on this policy, and this policy is underfunded. That is result in a result that is not according to its plan. So once this politician shows about this and they become strongly disagree, they attacking these policies by the incumbent. They got pitched by other politicians. They said that, oh, you first time you say that you are strongly agree with this policy. Now you say that you are disagree with this, and then this kind of thing discourages those politicians to say their opinion, even if evidently it is correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
So it is
Well,
important.
interesting. Yeah. Education is always berkelindan, tangled with, with politicians, with politics. Yeah. Okay. Donald, do you have any statement, questions, comments?
Yes. I'd like to compare the politicians in the US, in China, because in the US, most of the politicians, the background are in law or military, mostly lawyers. But in China, many of them are engineers. Like for example, Xi Jinping, I just checked, graduated from Tsinghua University, very elite university in chemical engineering. so definitely an engineer. But what's interesting is their policy toward COVID. Like for example, recently in Shanghai, they have very strict zero COVID policy, and it seems like they never change their mind. They say that they are prepared to do this zero COVID policy for many years to come. But in other countries like Singapore and others, they already relax, no longer restrict so strictly. So it seems like the contrary, because the scientists should be more ready to change their mind, but it seems that the Chinese bureaucrats are less likely to change their minds despite their engineering background. What is your opinion about this?
Yeah, this book also mentioned about the percentage of these people background in China. China have a large portion of people of science people that is in their politics. And for this also, yeah, this is kind of an enigma actually. Why they keep, maybe this is more applied to their bureaucratic system. So they have a very complex, very bureaucratic politics with cadreship and all. So while actually scientists and engineers have an instinctive thought process that is like evidence-based policy is like kind of instinct for them rather than something they need to learn. It's already instinctive for them, but due to some very complex bureaucratic in the China political system, this could become the enigma.
Is it possible because of flawed incentive system maybe? So those who are promoted are those who just give good results despite regardless of the process, and therefore they take shortcuts or whatever it takes to please the boss, that kind of incentive thing. Is that maybe related?
Yeah, that could be also the case because China have a very bureaucratic politics. So they have a cadreship system where people start from low to high, and any promotion could be given to those who have some kind of achievement. So their approach could be, oh yeah, there is also a term in this book that says there is a evidence-based policy and there is a policy-based evidence. So evidence-based policy means there is a policy that is made according to evidence, and policy-based evidence is there is some evidence that is found to support some of the policy that politician made. Yeah, I think they are now start looking for evidence to support their policy. So they
Yeah.
that is good case.
Wow. All right. Pipit, do you have any questions or comments?
I don't have enough context just now, so I will just watch the recording later.
Okay. All right. If the
I have one more question if you still have time.
yeah, sure.
Yeah, so the policy-based evidence sounds to me like confirmation bias. So you just choose something that confirm your existing belief. In this case is policy. Is there any tips in the book on how to change all these cognitive bias?
So actually, science operates in a simple set of rules. First, it starts with idea. Then you need to test every idea. Then you reject those who didn't pass the test and follow what passed the test. Then you need to ask every question, then follow wherever the evidence that there is the simple idea. Of course, humans have bias. Every human have bias, but the most important thing for a scientist is to admit that they themselves is also have bias. So it's either they prove themselves wrong or there is other scientists will prove them wrong. So it is important to always comply to this simple set of rules, to always reject everything that is not pass the test and follow what passed the test.
Wow, excellent. I learned a lot of new things today. Great insight. Thank you, Edo. if there's nothing else, I think we need to wrap this up. Yeah. Anything else?
Usually we take photo at the end.
Oh
Wait,
yeah.
Mbak Inung, have you presented your book?
No, I don't think it's a good time to present that. I'm not finished with that. So
Okay, if
yeah.
everyone take
Mm.
photo, I will edit myself in later.
Okay. Can anyone take photo? Siapa yang bisa?
Someone
Apa
take
bawa
photo.
aja? Any book should be fine, yeah.
Who will take the screenshot? Fajar, can you take the screenshot?
Is that all right, Fajar? Fajar belum dengar kayaknya. Masih interview, perhaps.
No, I think he's in other Toastmaster. I think Toastmaster meeting.
Yeah, he's doing some interview, something.
Yeah,
I don't know how. Yeah.
Yeah, I will
Don't
take the
know?
screenshot. Yeah, I will take
Okay.
the screenshot. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Okay, one more time. Wait.
Uh,
1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. You have a good Sunday, good weekend. Stay healthy, stay happy, and be useful.
Thank you, Mbak Inu.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, Pipi.
Bye for now.
See you next month. Bye bye.
Bye.
See you.